Thank you for joining us. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you all here. As already mentioned the last time when we did a HR Meetup, I think the basic idea is of bringing people together, having some kind of cool evening together, spending some time, doing some networking, exchange of ideas, thoughts. And I think that is in principle the idea. I think I mentioned it last time as well. The whole thing is meant as an open stage thing as well. So if somebody of you has got an interesting topic, wants to share with the community, with the audience, just bring it. We are hosting the people, we are taking care about the pizza and the drinks and the rest as well. So I think that's the primary, the basic idea. And today I'm really, really thrilled. I mean, one fact is that all of you came up. I think that's really marvelous and wonderful. And then I have two amazing, amazing guests today, and I'm really happy to welcome you. I mean, it's Hung Lee. Hung Lee is coming from UK, from London. He was in Berlin. He directly approached from Berlin today. I think we know each other since quite a time now. I call you a friend and a dear
Steady.
friend.
It's a bit too intimate, really.
Yeah, a dear friend. And it's always a pleasure to exchange thoughts and ideas. And we did a kind of a webinar series with Hung a couple of months ago, where we had 3, 4, 5 episodes. And we were just talking about how to recruit, and then Java developers and Python developers and DevOps engineers. And it was a kind of a mixture of having one developer there and also having recruiters there, and to exchange thoughts, ideas, stereotypes, misunderstandings, and all this kind of stuff. And it was really great pleasure. And it's Eva. Eva is from Dynatrace, and she's taking care about employer branding there. And I think the topic for today is to have a kind of a recap of 2024. I'm now nearly 40 years in business, and I think honestly 2024 was the most crazy year I ever had. So it was ups and downs, it was a lot of emotions within that year. And so I wanted to use the chance to do a quick recap with you both, and of course with all of you as well, on 2024 and also an outlook on 2025. And I probably start with the first question from my side is, what was the most crazy thing for both of you in 2024? Probably ladies first, so let's start with Eva.
So I think 2024 was also for me kind of a crazy one, personally and professionally. I became a mom this year, so that was kind of a huge shift. Business-wise, also like all the handovers as a lead, there is a lot you need to think about. And I think from like an HR perspective, in Dynatrace, we are hugely in globalizing all our approaches, bringing together culture more and more. And 2024 was kind of a year where we started all of that initially. And yeah, a lot of ups and downs, and we're still fully in it. So this will also get us or to actually take us towards 2025 and most obviously also 2026. So, yeah.
And Hung, for you?
So the craziest thing that happened this year for me is probably intentional. It's my fault, so to say, because I realized that because obviously I write a newsletter. I spend a lot of time on the internet and so on. But I realized that I was actually over-consuming the internet, right? So I was literally like 24/7 plugged into the matrix. And I thought, you know what, this is interesting, but also quite dangerous, because all of the information I was consuming was what I call like produced information, meaning someone has written that in order for someone to think that. And I thought, okay, that's dangerous, because if I'm potentially sharing this information, I actually need to know what's actually going on. So this year I made a determination to say, you know what, I want to go to every event. This is why I'm here. I said yes immediately. If someone tells me, hey, I want to come here, I'm there. Doesn't matter where it is, I'm going. Because I wanted to speak to local recruiters to actually corroborate what I'm hearing online, but also to surface up information that never makes it online. And so it's been a really fascinating journey. I think I've aged about 10 years in 12 months for sure. But it's it's been educational, and it's kind of taught me that, like, the central message I've taken away from this is you really do need to spend time with human beings. You need to do in-person event, in-person sort of interaction. You have to do it because there's information that's kind of exchanged there that never makes it onto the internet and never gets made into the training data for AI. So I have a feeling that this may be something we need to really double down on as the world becomes more and more AI dominated.
Mm. And I mean, when I joined the HR environment, I think it was in 2014 officially, there was, I mean, I think there's a single buzzword every year for HR. So in I think in 2014 it was Arbeiten 4.0, which means work 4.0, so translated one on one. That was the buzzword then. What was the buzzword of 2024?
2024?
Yeah, this year.
I would say the English would be do more with less, right? Did everyone hear this? Do more with less? It's basically your boss saying, you know what, we want you to do 100% more effort with like 50% less budget and less team. Yeah, everyone had this. It's like, oh, great. And then we're really getting crushed. And it's been quite stressful, I've got to be honest. Like, I think everyone that I've spoke to, no one's had a good time. You know, we remember fondly, you know, peak recruiter 2021, something like this. You know, May 20, that first quarter was like amazing for recruiters because that was the moment where LinkedIn published a very interesting chart, which I've kind of literally printed out. It's on my wall. I'm such a sad case. But I have it in my wall, and it basically is the moment where the most popular job, most in-demand job all on LinkedIn was actually a recruiter.
Yeah.
It wasn't a software engineer, it wasn't a data scientist, it wasn't a salesperson, it was actually us. And I was like, when I saw that, I thought, right, we're fucked. Because it doesn't get better than this, right? Literally, we can never be, this is like absolute peak demand for our services. And then, of course, sort of that moment was like 6 months. And then we've been in that sort of downward trend since. And it's been just tough yardage in that period. So do more with less has basically been the term that we've had in 2024. It probably is going to be do even more with even less in 2025, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we've got to really think how we do that, because we can't just keep grinding. We're going to break.
Eva, what was it for you, or from your point of view?
I think AI hit the HR world pretty hard. I see it as a buzzword everywhere, even though I would say I'm more someone who is very cautious of criticizing it, because I haven't seen it really, nobody really, I think, figured it out yet. It's on a very surface level, how I feel about it. But it actually hit us, I think, same time 2 years back.
I mean, we are doing a big survey every year for developers, and this year we also took the first time the HR side as well. And I mean, what we see as a trend and what's really coming up, and I think, but I saw it really. I was at a lot of conferences, but honestly, I saw it never really on a topic on the agenda. But it's now coming up. Probably it has to do with the crisis and how people feel. Is mental health and well-being. What's your take on that from your side?
I think it's a bit totally different, but also something that is still underestimated. And there is a lot of, I think, initiatives in companies to support mental health, to really figure it out. But I don't necessarily think that there is yet the secret sauce of how to do it right. I think it very much depends on your workforce, the talent that you have, and especially, I think, the leaders in companies. So I do believe that the leaders are actually the crucial piece. If you train them well, if you actually make them aware, this is where you would find the people that are maybe affected. But on the very positive, I do believe that there is more visibility on mental health issues. I think there is a lot of people that, due to this, I would say, wave of speaking openly about it, it gets. I think you know, there is a lot that we took away, this hiding it. So I think it got positioned in the spotlight, and I think this is a positive, that we start speaking openly about it, that it is a topic, and that there are programs supporting people in those situations, especially because I agree very much with you, doing more with less automatically will increase the cases where people just maybe can't handle the pressure anymore.
And I mean, I guess you have been at 100 conferences this year, so as I know your schedule and your agenda and how difficult it is sometimes to get in contact with you, even if you try. Have you met that topic quite often there on the agendas?
Do you know, it's actually really interesting research. If you want to see what the sentiment of society is like what are the talks that are being presented in conferences, because it tells you, okay, conference organizers are trying to be sensitive to what the hot topics are, and they'll eventually select stuff that goes in. I've got to be honest, I think mental health, I think we obviously have a mental health crisis, but I do believe that's really associated with the ambient economic conditions that we have. Like, guess what? If you are not like job insecure, if you're income insecure, a lot of the mental health problems can recede somewhat. But if you're like, you know, everyone's experienced like 20, 30, 40% inflation in terms of cost of living, guess what? That affects my mental health.
No, of course.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that the mental health in terms of reality, we've suffered over the last 2-3 years, but the interest in the conference organizers and the interest in the companies to talk about it has receded. So I think that, you know, with the do more with less, it's almost like, okay, we're going to forget about the mental health. We're going to crush these people a bit more.
Yeah.
So we've got this kind of tough realization that a lot of the things that, you know, companies claim they cared about, you know, when push come to shove, actually they were very early to, you know, let's move those to one side. So there's some hard truths that actually we've had to swallow the last couple of years, and I think there's a few more hard truths to come, to be honest, but there we go.
What do you think, how could AI really support HR? Because I mean, that was the topic that I saw at every single conference. I think that was really, I think that was one of the main topics that everybody was talking about. And for me, I got the impression that everybody's trying to jump on that train to really kind of, everybody's telling you, okay, this will be the disruptive solution now, and will definitely solve all the problems of the world. What's your opinion on that? I mean, I have my personal opinion on it. I will share probably the last of the 3. But what's?
I think AI probably will solve a number of persistent problems that have kind of plagued recruitment.
Which ones?
Candidate experience, I think it solves a great deal. I know people think, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, how is an AI going to do this? Actually, if you think about candidate experience, like the main problems candidates have is because we have not been able to give them timely information. They have a CV black hole. They don't get feedback, and they don't have a solution. They don't have closure. So send the CV in, get an application, get a call, great, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, nothing. Oh, the job's closed. That's like 6 weeks worth of stress. Okay. Now, the reason why that stress happens is not because recruiters are bad people. You know, we often hear this from outside. I'm serious. Like, people that are outside of our industry, like, literally reach for the most basic, crude characterizations of recruitment. I was interviewed by the FT, and I refused for that interview to go into the newspaper because they actually wanted the narrative to be of this style. I said, no, that's not the way. Recruiters are not bad people. We're just overstressed. We do not have the capacity to give every single candidate the experience that they deserve. We don't have the time. So can AI help with that? Actually, it can a great deal, because it can carry the information that the candidate needs. And guess what? Candidate doesn't need to have a high human touch. It's overrated, right? The human touch, totally overrated. The reason why we know this is true, by the way, is because prior to AI, prior to IT, recruitment was 100% human touch. And guess what? Candidates were still having a terrible experience. right? So don't tell me human touch is the decisive factor. It's not. It's giving the candidates information in a timely way and giving them closure. And so I think AI solves a great deal of that. We've seen really good tools that are emerging that will do things like, immediately provide feedback, give transparency as to where they are in the process, and even kind of deliver the outcomes that you need. People need closure. They don't like ambiguity. Ambiguity is where your stress levels go through the roof. Think about the times when you've had, we would actually prefer the certainty of a bad outcome rather than the ambiguity of a maybe good or bad outcome, right? We just want closure.
Yep.
AI can help with that, I think.
Eva?
My sense on that. I want to disagree. I do believe that there is a human touch needed.
No need for humans.
And I think this is also where AI, or I would hope AI will actually get us towards that there is more time for the individual touch and personalization, and takes away maybe exactly what you were referring to, like all the maybe the tedious or this time-consuming things that need to happen in order, or what actually gets recruiters stressed when they need to follow up. And when you holistically look at it, I do believe that there is currently a lot of trial and error, but I do believe, or I want to believe, that there is more humanity ahead of us, because AI is taking away a lot of tasks that are not yet there, and recruiters can focus on, very specific roles, or something that an AI can't maybe read out of a CV, or this human interaction and actually building trust or being there for a candidate that has maybe, a challenging decision to make or has questions. I think this is something where, when it's getting specific and where it's getting like very personal, this is where a human-to-human interaction always will win. I agree with like maybe positions where they are basically always searched for there, or where there is also a logic there. I think AI will definitely help in screening and pre-selecting and stuff like that. So this would be my take on it.
Okay.
Yours.
Mine. I think that a lot of companies, or the relation between companies and employees, is suffering of missing trust and missing appreciation in a way. I think that's still a case, and I personally think that it could help us to free us up from probably, and I fully agree to what you said. I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, for candidates, it's not important that who is answering their questions. I think they want to get answers, and they want to be taken out of the foggy situation. And I think the worst is being in this foggy environment where I don't know, is the journey over, is it still going on? And I personally had this experience as well, that you do something, and I mean, I honestly, I never met an expert in my private life who told me explicitly that he's an expert in changing jobs. So every one of us is changing job probably every 3 to 7 years, in average probably, and nobody's an expert. And I mean, honestly, if you're doing things that you're not really trained to, and you do on a daily basis or a monthly basis or a 2 monthly basis, it's causing stress. And I think taking people out of the stress situation, I think that's probably the solution. And if the answer is given by a chatbot or by a recruiter, at the end of the day, if the answer is sufficient answer for me, it doesn't make a big difference for me. But what I really think, and that is where I agree to you, is I think it's very difficult to read out all the emotion, the passion, and this kind of stuff out of a database, a CV, or a document. And I think that is probably what we all went into HR, because we wanted to deal with people, we wanted to talk to people, we wanted to be together with people. I mean, most of us. Claudia's nothing, no. No, but I mean, I think that is, and all the recruitments that I did in my life and all the hires that I did, I normally try to get the people in front of me, and I want to tell them my story, my idea of the journey, and then you have to look and watch their eyes, and if there's sprinkling or sparkling, it normally turns out to be successful. And if nothing happens, later on nothing happens as well. So I think that's the basic thing. That's my take on it. If we now look into an outlook into 2025, I mean, Hangi already mentioned it. I think the crisis will still be there. I think this I do not believe in Christmas wonders where everything changes with the 31st of December, sorry. So I personally don't believe in that. So what is a good way of dealing with it? What do you recommend?
I recommend forward action.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend action.
Mm-hmm.
Because analysis is another thing that's overrated.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the world is changing so fast, it defeats analysis, right? So you can analyze something, this is true yesterday, and then tomorrow something happens, and it's totally not true. So I think we're heading towards this world where it's so volatile, so unpredictable, that even the things you can predict have outcomes that are unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, if that's the situation, the best thing you can do is just take forward action and move forward, right? Move forward. How does this manifest as a professional or as someone in the industry? That means like just externalize things, implement initiatives, go do things that may not make an initial sense, or you haven't done a lot of research on it. Just crack through that first thing, because you'll generate information from doing that. And that information that you generate actually is more real than anything you might otherwise, speculate on. So I think there's another element of this, which I think is associated with mental health, actually, because action, I think, is a good. I'm not a mental health expert, okay? So clearly, so don't take this as advice from someone that doesn't know what they're talking about. It's true. However, I noticed that when I am down, my action levels are low. All right. When I'm down, actually, I do a lot of analysis. When I'm down, I'm very internally in my head too much. Actually, when I'm up is when I'm acting out and externalizing. So I think maybe the causality could be reversed. You just act out, improve your action, take agency, control over your career, control over your life, do those things. That's the best we can do, right? I think that's one thing I think that these last couple of years have taught us, is that we cannot wait for the external environment to improve. Right. We have to kind of affect it ourselves and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would actually very much echo that. So I think what we also somehow unlearned the last years is really this trying something small somewhere and then learning out of it and growing it. I think very often what I see in the HR field is that we want to build something that is like right perfect at the beginning, like from the beginning, and implement it for everybody everywhere and fitting every aspect. And I do believe going back to starting something small, evaluating and growing it is something that would help us exactly in this ambiguity. And I agree, action is definitely better than a freeze or shock. And I think it will be a tough year again.
Do you think that we have already passed this kind of zone where this freeze is over? I mean, we were in a shock, we were in a freeze. I mean, it turned out extremely immediately. That was probably the crazy thing for me, because the first quarter went quite well. So I think the first quarter in 2024 was really normal. I mean, probably not as positive as 2023 was, but it was okay. And then it really turned into kind of in German we say Schockstarre. So it was really this kind of paralytic freeze. So where everybody was like, "Oh my God, are we through there?"
I think the answer is the answer is the answer. Yeah, I think the answer's got to be no. It's got to be no, because essentially no one has confidence as to what this future looks like, and that without the confidence, you're not putting investment. So if you're building a business right now, you're not like throwing in all of your investment into this because you're confident the future looks in this direction. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so we're very conservative with our investments. And that obviously trickles down to where we're at in recruitment, because we recruit people, that's payroll. Payroll needs investment.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to be probably in that really sticky situation for some time. You know, there's no real reason to think that this is going to change.
That is 5 minutes.
Okay.
That is 5 more minutes. That is 5 more minutes. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you.
A bit of uplifting.
No,
Yeah, it's true. We need to get
Yeah.
positive. How do we do this? 5 minutes to cheer everyone up.
no, I mean, I honestly, I personally have the impression that this kind of really still stand is disappearing slowly, but it's disappearing. That is what I got when I talk to people, when I talk to clients, when we talk to when I'm attending conferences. So I think that is why I'm interested in your opinion on that. So
I think, you know, there's always like the up and the downside. You always have like a yin and a yang of a situation. And I do believe that the upside that I see is that we need to be way more focused than a couple of years back. And we might need to be smarter in the ways, or maybe also bolder in the ways what we try. So it might not be like the most perfect something or the most expensive something or something that we can, you know, externalize like hugely. I'm more talking right now from maybe an employer branding perspective, but there were like investments and budgets like crazy. And I think right now we need to refocus our energy and become more creative and maybe out of the box thinking. And I do believe that there actually are the gold nuggets and the real moments and the learnings that we can gain. So this would be my uplifting piece, but I also don't believe that it's yet over. So there were a couple of tough years ahead.